The Zaurathi Galactic Empire had ruled the stars for over 1,000 years. Their power stretched across hundreds of star systems, their warships outmatched anything ever created by any known species, and their soldiers were trained to crush resistance without mercy. Planets fell before them like dominoes, surrendering before the fight even began. Peace, they said, had been achieved, but everyone in the galaxy knew it was not true peace. It was fear. Fear kept the worlds quiet. Fear kept them obedient. No one dared challenge the Zaurathi, not the peaceful races, not the hidden pirates, not even the boldest rebels. The Emperor sat on his throne of metal and shadow, certain that nothing could ever shake the mighty empire he had inherited. But in a quiet corner of space, far from the Empire's busy trade routes and powerful defense lines, something strange began to happen. It started with the disappearance of a small scout ship assigned to check an uncharted system near the edge of the galaxy. When the ship failed to report back, the Empire barely noticed. Systems failed. Ships got lost. These things happened. A replacement was sent. Then another. And another. One by one, they vanished. No explosions. No warnings. Just silence. Some suggested natural causes. Black holes. Solar storms. But the last ship to vanish had sent a brief signal just before going dark. The signal was garbled, almost broken, but engineers managed to recover a small piece of audio. 3 words, cold and clear, repeated again and again in dozens of languages, each time growing more urgent. Humans have arrived. No one in the Empire knew what that meant. Some of the older scholars remembered the name from ancient databases. Humans, an old species, thought to be extinct or irrelevant. A species from a small planet near the edge of a spiral arm. Records said they had destroyed their own world through endless wars. Others believed humans were myths. Ghosts of a forgotten time. The Emperor laughed at the news. He dismissed the message as a joke, a mistake. But his admirals did not laugh. They looked at the missing fleets and the silence from the outer systems and felt something they had never felt before: unease. To calm the rising fear, the Empire sent a larger fleet, an entire armada led by Admiral HFY, a proud warrior with hundreds of victories. His mission was simple: reach the system, find the cause of the disappearances, and erase it. HFY expected pirates, perhaps a hidden black hole. What he found instead changed everything. As his fleet approached the silent region of space, sensors picked up movement: hundreds of strange ships moving in perfect formation, their hulls dark and smooth, almost invisible against the stars. The human ships did not send any signal. They did not move to attack. They simply hovered in space like shadows, watching. HFY ordered a scan, then a warning transmission. There was no reply, only silence. Then, without warning, a single message appeared on every screen, in every language the Empire knew, and in some they didn't. It said, "Do not follow. Do not threaten. Do not test us." The message repeated once, then vanished. HFY, proud and unshaken, laughed and ordered his fleet to open fire. He believed that strength would break whatever fear these strange ships hoped to create. Dozens of energy blasts lit up the stars, but none of them hit. The human ships moved with impossible speed, dodging and weaving like living creatures. Then they struck. No one could explain what happened next. Ships disappeared without a sound, some simply shutting down and drifting dead in space, others vanishing in flashes of light. There were no explosions, no wreckage. One by one, the Empire's greatest ships were removed from existence by an enemy that didn't even speak. Within 10 minutes, the Empire's strongest armada had been defeated. 2 ships remained, both heavily damaged, their crews shaken and broken. Admiral HFY, still alive but barely, recorded a final message before his ship was lost to the darkness. His voice trembled with fear as he said, "We are not prepared for war with them. We're not even ready for peace." That message, too, vanished into the void, only to be recovered weeks later by a passing merchant vessel. When it was played in the imperial capital, silence fell across the throne room. For the first time in 1,000 years, the emperor said nothing. He simply stared at the stars, realizing something terrible had happened. The calm they had enjoyed for so long was gone. Something had arrived in the galaxy, something powerful, quiet, and watching. And for the first time, the Empire was not the hunter. It was the prey. The news spread quickly. People whispered the word humans like a curse, like a warning. They remembered the stories now of a species that never gave up, that fought. Impossible wars, that adapted, survived, and always came back stronger. A species that once fought each other for thousands of years and only grew more dangerous with time. The Zalrathi Empire had always believed in control, in fear, in showing power through destruction. But now they faced something different, something calm, something silent, something far more terrifying than rage. They faced the unknown. They faced humanity. And in that quiet moment, as the stars seemed to flicker with hidden watchers, the Empire finally understood what real fear was. Not the fear of being attacked, but the fear of not knowing what was coming next. The silence after the destruction of Admiral Xerx's fleet echoed across the galaxy like a storm without sound. In the halls of the Zalrathi Imperial Command, fear turned to disbelief, and disbelief turned to confusion. Never in the history of the Empire had an entire fleet vanished with barely a fight. The Empire had faced rebellions, rival powers, and even internal betrayals, but this was different. This was something new, something alien in a way they could not control or understand. It wasn't just about losing ships, it was about the complete collapse of certainty. And at the heart of that fear stood one name, spreading like wildfire from system to system humans. Their appearance wasn't marked by war cries or declarations, but by precise, calculated silence. The mysterious fleet that had erased the Empire's best warships had not left debris, prisoners, or threats. Only one message had been recorded, sent before the first shot was fired: do not follow. Do not threaten. Do not test us. Those few words, calm and cold, were more terrifying than the loudest roar of any beast. They spoke of power without arrogance, and warning without desperation. The Emperor, now visibly aged from the weight of this unknown threat, called a second council. He gathered his remaining admirals, scientists, historians, and strategists to find answers. But there were none. No one knew where humans had come from, what they wanted, or how they had managed to advance so far without being noticed. Every attempt to scan the region where they appeared failed. Every probe sent beyond the destroyed sector was lost within hours. The outer colonies, once symbols of strength, had become silent ghosts. The Empire needed answers, and they needed them fast. So, they assembled a special force, a smaller, more advanced fleet equipped with stealth and recon tools. It was not sent to attack, but to observe and report. They were told to avoid confrontation and return with information. Leading them was Admiral Crethar, a respected strategist who had always believed in caution before conflict. Crethar didn't trust silence. He believed silence often meant someone was watching, waiting. When his fleet reached the outer edge of the human-claimed space, they found nothing. No stations, no planets, no signs of life, just emptiness that felt too quiet to be natural. They sent out drones, set up listening arrays, and stayed hidden among the asteroids. Days passed with no activity. Then, suddenly, one of their stealth ships vanished without a trace. No sound, no signal, not even a flicker on sensors. The fleet went into full alert. Crethar ordered them to hold position and wait. That was when they saw them. The human fleet arrived like shadows bleeding out of the void. Dozens, maybe hundreds of ships, each one completely black, shaped unlike any known design. Their surfaces were smooth and unmarked, reflecting no light, and yet they moved with absolute precision. No energy buildup was detected. No weapons were visible. And still, the Empire's ships felt surrounded by something far greater. Crethar did not make the mistake of opening fire. He ordered a peaceful broadcast, a greeting, a request for contact, a show of non-aggression. The response came instantly. A human voice, calm, emotionless, and sharp as cold steel, spoke. "Turn back now. There will be no second warning." Crethar, trained for diplomacy as well as war, replied respectfully. He explained they had not come to fight but to understand. He asked what the humans wanted, why they had destroyed the Empire's fleet, and why they had come to the galaxy in such secrecy. For several minutes, there was silence again. Then the reply came, not a voice this time, but data. Massive streams of it. Tactical simulations, battle recordings, military records, and historical files were transmitted directly into the fleet's systems. The data showed detailed predictions of every possible battle between the Empire and the humans. In every version, humans won. Not through numbers, but through precision, creativity, and what the files labeled human unpredictability. Even when outnumbered, even when surrounded, the humans found ways to survive and to win. Then came a final message, short and unforgettable. We will not rule. We will not kneel. We will not vanish. Leave us alone or be removed. Crethar stood silently, watching as the human ships began to fade back into the darkness without a single shot fired. He didn't need orders from the Emperor. He knew what had to be done. The fleet turned around and began the long journey back. But halfway through, another event shook them. One of the smaller Empire cruisers attempted to follow the human fleet at a distance, disobeying Crethar's command. It vanished from sensors within seconds. No explosion. No distress call. Just gone. When the remaining ships returned to Imperial space, only a handful of crew members could even speak clearly. Most were quiet, staring at nothing. The fear was too much. Crethar sent a final report to the Emperor. It contained every recording, every message, every detail. He concluded with words that would later become legendary. They are not like us. They are not above us. But they are something we do not yet understand. We must not push further. If we do, the galaxy will know war like never before. The Emperor read the report in silence. He dismissed the council and closed the palace doors. Alone, he looked up at the stars, wondering if history had finally met the one enemy it could not conquer. The name human was now spoken with the weight of fear and mystery. No one knew where they had been, how long they had watched, or what else they were capable of. But one thing was certain: the first contact had been made, and the last words spoken were not a threat, but a truth. The age of fear belonged to someone else now. The Empire had always been proud of its order, strength, and control, where every citizen knew their place. Every fleet had a purpose, and fear belonged to their enemies. But now, that fear had crept into the Empire's own heart. After the disastrous first contact with the humans and Admiral Crethar's chilling report, something began to break inside the grand structure that once stood unshaken for thousands of years. Panic, once a foreign concept in Imperial command, now spread like fire behind closed doors. The ruling council argued for hours in secret chambers, their voices raised not with confidence, but with fear masked as pride. Some wanted to prepare for total war, while others whispered about surrender before it was too late. The Emperor, once a figure of iron will, had turned quiet and pale, spending more time alone staring into space than leading. Whispers of weakness began to circulate among the nobles and high-ranking officers. For the first time in Imperial history, no one knew what the right move was. The people sensed it too. Across the Empire's countless worlds, the news of a mysterious human fleet destroying entire squadrons without effort had leaked, despite the Council's desperate attempts to control information. Citizens who once trusted the Empire's absolute dominance now questioned everything. Riots broke out in some colonies. Military academies saw desertions. Even some starship captains refused new orders, claiming they wouldn't send their crews to die in silence. Fear was spreading, not because of what humans had done, but because no one knew what they would do next. That uncertainty became the sharpest weapon in the human arsenal. Every strategy the Empire developed fell apart before it began, because no one had a clear enemy to strike. They had only seen shadows, heard one calm warning, and received simulations that predicted only defeat. Imperial scientists were forced to recheck everything they believed about warfare, technology, and biology. How had humans remained hidden for so long? How had they developed ships so advanced and stealthy that even the most sensitive scanners couldn't track them? The Empire's brightest minds couldn't answer, and that failure added to the chaos. Among the terrified voices, one man stood apart, Commander Veclin, a lower-ranking intelligence officer who had survived the battle at the frontier. He hadn't seen the humans directly, but he had studied every frame of footage, every signal, every moment of silence. He requested an audience with the Emperor, and surprisingly, he was granted one. In the quiet chamber, surrounded by trembling advisors, Veclin spoke without fear. He explained that fear of the unknown was killing the Empire faster than the enemy. The humans weren't attacking again, not yet. They were waiting, watching, testing the Empire's reaction. And the Empire was failing that test by tearing itself apart from within. He suggested not another attack, not more fleets, but an understanding and investigation into what made humans different. If we understand their minds, he said, maybe we can predict their next move. But right now, we don't know if we're fighting machines, monsters, or something worse, people who think differently from us. The Emperor, staring at the young officer, didn't speak at first. But something in those words seemed to reach him, and for the first time in days, he gave a direct order. "Find out who they are," he said quietly. "Before we are destroyed by what we don't understand." Veclin was placed in charge of a secret research mission. No ships, no armies, just information. His team included historians, ex-diplomats, alien cultural experts, and exiled scientists. They gathered ancient galactic records, looked into lost civilizations, and searched for any mention of humanity, even in myth. What they discovered was shocking. Humans had appeared before, but always briefly, and always as shadows in someone else's war. In a collapsed star empire 300 years ago, one battle had mentioned a strange black ship that interfered in a conflict, destroyed both sides, and vanished. In another forgotten rebellion, a small moon had reportedly been emptied in a single night by a ghost fleet. These stories had always been dismissed as superstition or battlefield confusion, but now they were being seen in a new light. Humanity hadn't just arrived, they had been watching for a very long time. The Empire realized too late that their enemy was not born in one moment, but had quietly existed in the corners of the galaxy, hidden and evolving. Veclin's team also found something terrifying in an abandoned station on the edge of wild space, a coded message left in an old human dialect, warning of a final line not to be crossed. It read, "This galaxy belongs to none. We keep balance when others forget. We are not your rulers, but we are the reminder." What kind of civilization could afford to remain hidden for centuries, stepping in only when necessary and then vanish again? The Empire was beginning to see the shape of something far greater than themselves, something that didn't seek conquest or power, but stability on its own terms. And now that the Empire had crossed into their domain, they were marked. As the truth spread among the secret circles of power, the panic grew deeper. Not only had the Empire found a stronger enemy, they had awoken something ancient, patient, and fully capable of wiping them out if provoked again. Even the Emperor could no longer deny it. His last official command before sealing the palace gates was clear: hold all fleets. The Empire waited in uneasy silence, its fleets frozen in place, its leaders trapped between pride and fear, hoping that stillness would save them. But in the darkness beyond the edge of known space, something stirred. A single human vessel, black as a dead star and silent as a grave, appeared near one of the outer observation satellites, not attacking, not hiding, just watching. Its arrival caused instant chaos in the command centers. Emergency alarms rang out, commanders shouted orders, and targeting systems locked onto the strange vessel. But before any weapon could fire, every screen in the room went black. Then, one by one, they lit up again, not with sensor data or tactical displays, but with a single image, a human face, calm, expressionless, staring straight into every camera across the Empire. No one could trace the signal. It had overridden even the most secure networks, bypassed every firewall, and reached every level of the Empire, from military bases to the Emperor's personal quarters. Then the voice spoke, not loud, not angry, just clear, steady, and cold. "We gave you a chance," the human said. "We watched, waited, and warned. You ignored the silence. You touched the line. Now you must understand." As the message continued, a wave of strange data poured into the Empire's systems. Thousands of star maps flashed on screens, showing distant galaxies and forgotten routes. In each map, small glowing red points appeared places where civilizations once thrived, but were now marked only as ruins. The voice continued. These were the ones who thought they could rule everything. They reached too far. They ignored the balance. Now they are gone. On one screen, a video played showing a vast alien fleet, larger than anything the Empire had ever seen, advancing proudly toward an unknown world. Then, in a single moment, hundreds of black shapes appeared, human ships silent, deadly, unstoppable. The alien fleet didn't even fire a shot before it was torn apart, piece by piece, in cold silence. The human voice returned. "You are not the first. You will not be the last. But your time to choose is short." The Empire's highest leaders watched in stunned silence. No demand was made. No condition offered. The message was not a warning. It was a judgment. What followed was even stranger. Every planetary database across the Empire received a second package of information, simple, plain, and terrifying. It contained recordings, history files, even biological studies of humans, evidence that they had been present across the galaxy for thousands of years. In every age, when conflict grew too large, when empires rose too fast, humans had appeared from the shadows, reset the balance, and disappeared again. This wasn't just war. It was their purpose. The Empire's scientists, trying to understand, ran simulations. The results were horrifying. Every time they included a human fleet in their battle models, the result was total defeat. Not just military loss, but full system collapse. And not because humans were unbeatable in firepower, but because they never played by any known rules. Their tactics were illogical, their biology strange, and their machines nearly invisible to sensors. It was like fighting a ghost that knew every thought before it formed. As this reality settled into the hearts of the Imperial Command, something unexpected happened. Small groups of citizens began to surrender, not out of fear, but out of awe. They believed the humans were not enemies, but galactic guardians or ancient watchers. Across several border colonies, people laid down their arms, switched off defenses, and waited. The Empire, confused and fragmented, couldn't even decide whether to stop them. Then came the final part of the message, a line that shook the entire galaxy. "You still have time, but not much. We are watching. What you do next decides what happens to your stars." And with that, the screens went black. No one knew where the message came from. No one could trace it. The human ship that had delivered it had vanished without leaving a trace. Panic, once hidden in war rooms and private chambers, now spilled into the streets. Some called for surrender, others for a last strike. But deep inside, everyone knew the truth. The Empire was no longer in control. Something ancient and powerful had returned, and it didn't care about their pride or power. It only cared about balance. And now, that balance had been disturbed. From the shadows of space, the humans were watching, waiting, and preparing for the next move. But the question remained, what would the Empire choose? Silence, surrender, or self-destruction? The Empire stood at a crossroads, its vast systems caught in a web of fear, confusion, and desperate hope. From the outer colonies to the shining cities of the core worlds, the people waited for a decision, knowing that whatever came next would shape the future of the galaxy. The message from the humans still echoed in every control room, every mind cold, clear, and final. The Emperor, once a symbol of unshakable control, now sat in silence, staring at the dark screen before him, surrounded by generals and advisors who argued but said nothing new. One wanted to fight to the last ship, calling it a matter of pride. Another urged immediate surrender, whispering that survival was more important than honor. But none of them understood what they were truly facing. The humans had not threatened them in the usual way. They had not demanded land, resources, or tribute. They had delivered only truth, a silent reminder of power hidden in the shadows, waiting for balance to be restored. The Emperor finally rose, his voice low but steady, and asked a question that silenced the room. What if they are not here to conquer us? What if they are here to stop what we've become? The words changed everything. For centuries, the Empire had ruled through fear, crushing worlds that refused obedience, rewriting history to hide its darkest acts. Now, faced with a power that saw all and judged all, the Empire had to ask itself whether it deserved to survive. Across the stars, debates flared in secret councils and street corners alike. Some believed the humans were myth, using fear as a weapon. Others believed they were ancient guardians, the galaxy's final check against tyranny. Ships were recalled from the borders. Factories stopped building weapons and started transmitting peace signals. A strange quiet took hold of the Empire, like a beast pausing to decide if it should attack or run. And in that silence, the Emperor made his choice. A single message was prepared, not a broadcast of surrender or resistance, but something different, something honest. It was sent not from a warship, but from a neutral science vessel, unarmed and open, heading toward the same space where the human ship had first appeared. The message read, "We see what we have become. We ask not for mercy, but for a chance to change. We will step back. We will listen. We will not challenge your presence." The Empire then did something no one expected. It began to dismantle its war fleets, shut down its weaponized outposts, and open old archives hidden from public view. Secrets buried for centuries were released, showing the cruelty the Empire had inflicted on others, the lies told to maintain power, and the truths ignored to stay in control. The Empire invited former enemies to speak, to be heard, even to lead discussions on what a new future might look like. All this was done without knowing if the humans were watching, without knowing if they would even care. But the Empire understood now, this was not about showing strength. It was about proving they could be more than what they were. Days passed, then weeks. No response came. The skies remained quiet. The stars watched in silence. Then one night, over the capital world, something appeared just for a moment, a black shadow moving through space, not attacking, not landing, just watching. And then, a single signal arrived, short and simple: "We are listening." It was not a promise of safety, not a sign of trust, but it was something. It was hope. The Empire, once feared across the stars, now stood humbly before a mystery it could not control. It had chosen reflection over pride, peace over war, truth over silence. Whether it would be forgiven or destroyed, no one knew. But for the first time in 1,000 years, the people of the Empire felt something they had forgotten long ago: clarity. The stars were no longer theirs to rule. They were part of something bigger, older, and watching. And as the humans faded again into the dark, unseen but present, the Empire began the hard work of change, unsure of what the future held, but finally ready to earn its place in the galaxy.